Welcome to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff. The show is heard on WBCQ The Planet every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the station comes out of the beautiful Monticello, Maine in Aroostook County. And as of last Saturday, mid-October, impnation.com, every Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, you can hear this show. And that's thanks to our guest last week, Jen Coffey, who is affiliated with this station, with this online media source. So you can hear the show also, impnation.com. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. And if you're listening to this show and you maybe know some folks who will be interested in rebroadcasting it, I'll be very receptive to that. So, and we want to thank Jen Coffey for making that happen. This show is sponsored by Camp Constitution, which, among other things, runs a week-long and a day summer camp program. Next year's camp will be held at the same location we've held every camp since 2009, the Toa-Nippie Christian Retreat Center in Rindge, New Hampshire, which is in the southwest corner of the state. And if you'd like more information about the camp and some, about getting to camp or participating, just visit our website, campconstitution.net. You'll be able to download information. We actually have some hard copy pamphlets, which are just getting to press now and should be available. They're available in PDF, but we also have them in hard copy. And in addition to our wonderful summer camp program, we have, if you go to our website, you will see a YouTube channel. You will see a Vimeo channel, which is, we're not as active on that. All these radio shows are put up on Vimeo, on YouTube. I think we have about 37 or 38, and I try to get to it as soon as possible. So you can you go to YouTube, and you can get this show and on other venues. You can copy and paste it. We also have a book publishing arm, and you can find that information by going to the website to see the Camp Bookstore. And we just recently, we haven't put it up online yet, mainly because it's probably not exactly going to be a big demand, but we have the 1,300 plus pages of the 1979 Senate report on the Constitutional Convention. And this is a valuable resource for those serious, not just students, but serious opponents of the Article 5 Convention. And in fact, if you're interested in getting a copy of this, you can get it through, just give me a call at 857-498-1309. It's also available in a PDF format, which you can get right through our Camp Constitution's Scrib page. If you go to scribd.com/Camp Constitution, you should be able to find it. Or if you just put into the Article 5, I should say, the scrib.com search engine, you put down Constitutional Convention Procedures or Article 5, you should find it available, and it's there as a free download. Our guest tonight is a man that I got to know a number of years ago. His name is Scott Lively, Pastor Scott Lively. He is the author of a few books. One of the books that I highly recommend is called The Pink Swastika, and also a book called Reclaiming the Rainbow. He's got an inner city ministry that he's affiliated with, a storefront coffee shop, which is incredible. I got a chance to visit the place one time. I was really impressed. He's also been an instructor at Camp Constitution, and I would have to say that he is probably amongst the militant homosexuals public enemy number one. Good afternoon, Scott.
Hi, Hal. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. My wife and I are currently driving our way through Arizona, heading for California, where our granddaughter, Camille, is waiting for us.
That's great news, Scott. I'm glad to hear it. Well, it's beautiful this time of year when you get back to New England. It's in the low 50s, and I think we're a little bit past, a little bit beyond peak with the foliage. But we'll keep a few leaves on the trees, so you get home, you get to be able to see a few.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, Scott, we only have 30 minutes, and I mean, you have such an incredible story to tell about your own your own personal experience and your ministry. But right now, we see, well, talk a little bit about your background, about yourself, and I want to get into this bathroom bill nonsense that's been popping up around the country.
Yes. Well, my background, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict for 16 years. From the age of 12, I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ and was healed and delivered in prayer. In 1986, became a Christian social activist in the late 1980s, and for about 25 years, my primary battle has been against the LGBT agenda. Along the way, I became an attorney, a pastor. I got a PhD for the Pentecostal Assemblies of God. I got credentials in international human rights from Strasbourg, France. I've been to 40 different countries. I've written 5 books, been to more than 800 radio and television shows, and I really consider myself a missionary to the global pro-family movement. So that in a nutshell is me.
Other than that, you haven't done much, right?
That's right.
I believe what prompted you to get into this, opposing this militant homosexual agenda, you were a pastor in a church in the northwest part of the country, and you just tell the story yourself. I won't have to.
Well, I didn't become a pastor until later, but I was working for the Oregon Citizens Alliance as the communications director, and we were fighting the abortion issue through ballot measures. And then the next election cycle, this was the '92 cycle, the year Bill Clinton got elected, we shifted focus to the homosexual agenda because it was really more harmful. I mean, although abortion as an act is, I think, more wicked than homosexual sodomy, the homosexual movement represents a greater threat to the Constitution and to our country because it's an army of cultural Marxist activists. And it's really the driving force behind all the elements of the culture war. Most people don't realize that, going all the way back to the late 1940s. So I had my eyes opened to that situation by trial by fire. You know, I really didn't know much about the issue. It was my boss, Lon Mabon, head of OCA, that had made this decision. He just simply asked me if I would stand with him. He said, it's going to get really hot and heavy, and they're going to come after me with all guns blazing, and I need somebody who'll stand with me. And he said, would you do that? And I said, oh, sure. Not knowing what I was getting into, but I soon found out. It was like the gates of hell kicked open and all the demons came pouring out. Unbelievable. I've never seen any political campaign ever anywhere that was like what we went through with ballot measure 9. Every kind of dirty trick, etc.
What's interesting is that we have a couple of your presentations that you gave at Camp Constitution and one in another function on our YouTube channel. And some of the most filthiest, I mean, it's one thing to disagree with somebody, and you're very polished. You have a loving attitude. You're not there ranting and raving and a hate-filled message. It's a message of redemption. That's what your ministry is called, isn't it? Redemption.
Right. Amen.
I mean, you change, and the Bible's clear that many people have lived this lifestyle, and the Apostle Paul said, but you've changed. And that's what it's about. It's not about hating. But I see the most vicious, ugly. I mean, I have to keep an eye on it because I don't want this filthy, hateful messages and it's demonic,
Al. It's demonic.
Well, yes.
And there's nothing that brings out the vitriol of the far left like this issue. I mean, there are. It comes close on abortion, a few other things, but this really is the ultimate sacred cow of the far left, is sexual perversion. It's like if you want to understand the spirit behind the movement, you just look at Genesis 19, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. That was the spirit. You know, even though they were struck blind, the men that had gathered to rape the 2 angels in the form of men were implacable. That's what the way the movement is. They do not relent. They do not. It's like the Terminator. They have set their sights. Ever since the Stonewall Riot in 1969, they changed their focus from the pursuit of tolerance to the pursuit of total control of all the political, social, cultural institutions of America, and they've just about succeeded in that in half a century. So it's astonishing.
It's amazing, though, when they celebrate their so-called gay pride week, or now it's a month, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It was based on a riot at a homosexual mafia-owned establishment where cops were assaulted.
That's right.
And
That's the Stonewall Bar.
Right, and that's covered in
Christopher
your book.
Street. Yeah, that's right.
right.
Christopher Street in New York City, mafia-owned bar. The police went to arrest a teenage boy prostitute who was a drag queen prostitute, used to service the men in that bar. And this was, of course, at the height of the anti-war movement. The radical left was very violent in every respect. And the homosexuals kind of jumped on that bandwagon that day. And today it's commemorated as Gay Pride Day.
And
that's
thing
what
is,
Gay Pride Day is.
You'll see policemen marching, and some policemen, I should say, either forced to or like so, this was an anti-police attack. Yet it's become, if the trend continues, it will be our declaration. They'll replace this with the Declaration of Independence, July 4th. And
well, every aspect of the culture has been touched. Look what Obama did the night of the Obergefell ruling.
That's
he
right.
painted the White House in the rainbow flag or the rainbow colors. That's a sign of control. That was a declaration of victory over the nation.
Yes. Yes, of course, they've had the White House for quite some time, unfortunately, and I would say both parties at the top completely embraced it. The Republicans not as adamantly, but they'll do next to nothing, and we learned that here in Massachusetts, that they quietly accept it, and that, in fact, they could even be a little more nastier. And in Massachusetts, it seems, where I live and where you live, it seems that what they think in order to get elected, you have to march in their so-called gay pride parade.
Yeah, it's a five-stage process, Hal, and I teach this in my seminars. Tolerance is the first stage, and of course, that's something I support. I believe people have the right to make wrong choices, and we should be willing to put up with some things that we don't like for the sake of preserving civility. The next stage is acceptance. That's a whole different ballgame. Then after acceptance comes celebration, then forced participation in gay culture, like the police and firemen forced to march in gay pride parades, things like that. And then lastly, it's punishment of all dissenters, anyone who disagrees with the gay movement. And we officially adopted or reached that fourth stage of forced participation with that gay marriage ruling. Kennedy, who's written all of the majority opinions favoring the homosexual agenda since Romer v. Evans in 1995. In Romer v. Evans, he said that Colorado's attempt to prevent homosexuality from being the basis for minority status and getting special rights that come from that did not even rise to the level of a legitimate state interest, but the Supreme Court didn't have to do the normal analysis for minority status. That was just simply outrageous, and then he's written every one since then. He wrote the majority opinion in the Obergefell case, and he found, or he declared just simply by his own assertion, that homosexuality is immutable. And, it was, and now because that's in place, the entire country is now forced to participate in gay culture, and all the public schools now have Gay History Month, and it's just going to get worse from here. And one last point is the more that they gain the power in any location, the more they then use that power to punish anybody that disagrees with them.
Yeah, I contend that the Supreme Court decision, was a formal declaration of war against all those who share either Judeo-Christian values, and also it relegated all Christians to a second-class status. If we can't hold a job at the federal, state, or county level, and force to do something totally repugnant to our value system, that makes us second-class citizens in a nation that was founded primarily by people who share those a Christian worldview.
Well, it's a lawless decision as well, Hal. That is on two bases. First of all, you cannot establish a law that violates the law of God. First of all, and on that it's illegitimate on its face. But secondarily, it was a ruling of utter lawlessness in that you had two of the Supreme Court justices who participated and presided over homosexual wedding ceremonies during the period when the case was pending. the most fundamental violation of judicial ethics that you can commit, creating not just an appearance of partiality, but the actual conflict of interest. And they were thumbing their nose at the Constitution and even, basic, simple decency. Their Supreme Court rulings, the Toomey case actually holds that all the parties to a case have a constitutional right to impartiality among the justices, and these two just flaunted that, showing that they believe that homosexuality and the gay agenda trumps the Constitution and everyone else's rights.
And the notion of a state compelling interest, that really means that now the state will do everything they can to promote it in every aspect of people's lives. So when there are some libertarian types who say, "Oh, this is good stuff. This is a victory for freedom-loving people, and we need to get the state out of the marriage business altogether." Well, this not only does it get them deeper in the marriage business, it gets every level of government. And if you're a libertarian, look at the bill that's going to be spending millions already aggressively promoting the lifestyle, and they're spending billions persecuting and prosecuting those who dare defy. And so, is this idea of liberty? Is this the idea of what government should be doing? If anything, they should be standing against this. Instead, they're the ones lining up at these so-called gay pride parades, thinking this is somehow. Wait till they see the heavy hand of the law, And it's interesting too. These bakers around the country and people who host these function halls, they're being fined. They're being driven out of business.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm being sued for crimes against humanity for preaching against homosexuality in Uganda. And,
that's right. Could you update us on the case? I know that this was about 2 years ago.
It's still in the discovery. The case is over 3 years old now. We're still in the discovery process for another month or so, and then we'll have a chance to try to get it dismissed through a summary judgment motion. But I'm not holding my breath. Just everything seems stacked against me. But the point I want to make it regarding the case is that this is the next move of the globalists. They took down the U.S. They took us off the biblical foundation in 1947 with Everson versus Board of Education. Hugo Black, who was FDR's man on the court, he did that, and then he also wrote the majority in Torcaso v. Watkins, which declared atheism to be a religion. That took us. We stopped being a Christian nation officially in terms of our government function in those two cases. And then they started dismantling the moral infrastructure of the country through a bunch of sex-related cases. Griswold versus Connecticut in 1966. At the state level, marriage cases related to no-fault divorce. California was first in 1969 and swept across the country. Abortion on demand, 1973. And then the whole homosexual cases came in to really take us down. Romer v. Evans, 1995. Lawrence versus Texas in 2003, then the Obergefell case just now. So they have completed the moral takedown of the country. They've just about broken our economic backbone. And the next step is going to be the abandonment of national sovereignty and the bringing the country under the control and authority of a global socialist order. And the case that's against me is actually pretty significant in that regard, because the only way they could bring this case is by invoking European law, that I'm being actually held accountable to. Actually, they're not even applying the right standard to it, but the law that they're using to say that I violated crimes against humanity is European law. It's nothing to do with the United States. So if they happen to prevail on that. What's that?
You were in Uganda when you made a speech. And for somehow, I mean, if there was an issue, let the people of Uganda bring you to trial, but they're not interested in doing that.
The Ugandans actually were very strongly supportive of my message, and it's, I am protected by the U.S. Constitution, my First Amendment here in the U.S. and everything I said. And by the way, it was simply warning them about what's coming to their country. That's what has already happened here. Nothing, no calling anybody to violence or hatred against homosexuals, none of that. In fact, the whole 3 hours of my presentation at that conference is posted on the internet by the other side. And there isn't a single thing in there that they can point to But nevertheless, the Marxists here in this country wanted to take me down. They wanted to do it for a long time. I'm a very effective advocate for the pro-family position. And so this Marxist group called Center for Constitutional Rights, based in New York, they brought the case that the homosexuals in Uganda really are just pawns in this. This is the Marxist attorneys from New York that are doing it. And it's all, they're trying to shoehorn this. They did shoehorn it into federal court using the Alien Tort Statute, and it's all about shutting me up. But now they have a chance to actually bring international law into federal court, and if they prevail, it's a huge step forward in this effort to bring international authority over U.S. courts.
And that's something, of course, through the World Court, and the World Court, of course, is a court of original jurisdiction, and there you have a tribunal. There you don't have a jury of a jury of your peers or what have you. You simply you're at the mercy of a tribunal, and people who do not share the concept of Western law, you'll have Chinese and who knows what else. People who have no concept.
Well, there's only one country in the world that has the U.S. Constitution. Which is the most powerful document ever created for the protection of genuine human rights and the establishment of a working constitutional republic until the cultural Marxists took it over. And now they're dismantling it as fast as they can, and they're trying to get us under this global authority. Not just the World Court, but just the whole idea that the international legal norms should be integrated here in the U.S., that we should no longer look to our Constitution to be the ultimate authority of the law, but that we actually are just part of the world community of jurists that should be presiding over Americans. That's what's dangerous. That's what's next.
I think Ginsburg has actually openly advocated that. When they make a decision, they look at European law and they forget about the Constitution. And the Supreme Court is supposed to be the weakest branch of the federal level.
Oh no, they've been the most powerful since. No, since 1947. They've actually been the ruling power in the country. Yeah, the president has lots of power, and the legislature has a lot of power, but the Supreme Court has the final say on so many things, and that happened. They really seized control for themselves in '47. That was when all this started really falling apart.
Right. No, what I'm saying is that under the Constitution, under Article 3, they have limited this. They're not supposed to be the most powerful branch, and they can be simply their appellate jurisdiction can be limited by Congress, but Congress hasn't done that. And the president will say, Andrew Jackson told the Supreme Court justice, "You made the ruling, now you enforce it." Had something to do with the Indian. So, but Obama administration is more than happy to enforce anything that comes out of the Supreme Court. When this lady Kim Davis was put in prison, if the system was working right, the county sheriff would have had that judge arrested. You're not going to come into my county and violate state law and put her in a county prison. No, we're going to put you in a county prison and get your sheriff. And we're not going to cooperate. My deputies will not cooperate. I want to change just a little bit. The bathroom bill. These are certain bills that are passed. I think California passed it. It's been actually defeated in Massachusetts but there's about 40 Democrats that are pushing this. And I had an interesting email exchange with one of them, Paul Heroux, in Attleboro, which is somewhat of a moderately conservative area. So I don't know how someone this radical can stay in office, but he thinks he must think I live in his district, so he's been actually responding to my messages, and so nobody who's listening to the show will tell him and let him keep doing it. But it was almost ludicrous. So I'm going to be copying and pasting it to do a little article about it. But he's telling me that sex is male or female, but gender is sex is biological, but gender is psychological. So the notion that I may be biologically a male, I could be psychologically a female.
Yeah, that's the standard rhetoric. They just simply invented this as a context for fighting this battle. And, we don't have critical thinking anymore. The public schools have eliminated that. You just have a lot of Marxist indoctrination going on in the public schools and the universities. And so nobody thinks twice when they start spouting this nonsense, and people just parrot it without any challenge. It's really, this is a perfect storm that we've reached here in this country of where the cultural Marxists have taken over so many of the different institutions that they're just simply reinforcing each other. The university system, comes out with this nonsense, and then you have for example, the mental health agencies, which are supposedly private or nonprofit, but they are now under the control of the same people with the same cultural Marxist mindset, and they just simply rubber stamp the things that are coming out of the universities. And now you have the Obama administration in lockstep as well, and because of Obama's control over the intelligence agencies, NSA and all that, he's got dirt on all these congressmen. That's why I believe Boehner and McConnell and these others have not accomplished anything, because I think they're all being blackmailed. So it's a perfect storm. There's nobody that's resisting the lawless regime that is taking a sledgehammer to the foundations.
Well, that's something that I just heard about a whistleblower back in the 90s when the Clinton was being impeached. The Clinton administration put his little gangsters into overdrive, and he got the dirt on Dennis, the Speaker of the House at that point. I guess he had quite a shady background with connections to pedophiles or whatever.
Yeah, everybody that gets to that level, I don't think they let anybody get to that level unless they got dirt on them. That's just the way the system has worked for a long time.
Well, we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to quickly talk about, you have the Pink Swastika, which I think is probably in my opinion, I haven't read all your books, but it's a phenomenal book. It's a great history book, but it goes into not just the history of the Nazi Party, but the homosexual movement from the 1800s. We're in the 5th edition of it now, and people can actually read the entire 4th edition at defendthefamily.com. Just click on the book cover on the homepage, and it'll take you to a PDF of the text of the book. And then on my blog, scottlively.net, is the first 4 chapters of the beta versions of the 5th edition, which is substantially enlarged over the 4th edition. You wouldn't think that after 400 pages of documentation there could be anything more to add to the story. But there's a guy who's for almost 10 years, his hobby has been doing research for the 5th edition, and about every 6 weeks he sends me another packet of mimeographed pages from books that he's read and copied and highlighted the sections. Is that our friend? Is he from Western Massachusetts?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just an astonishing.
Yes.
And a great blessing.
Yes.
I have a 3-foot stack of mimeographed pages from books that I have to do the work of weaving all of this additional information into what already is an exhaustive study. But you can see what I'm talking about just by scottlively.net. Up on the top of the page, you click on where it says Pink Swastika, and those 4 chapters, there's PDFs of those 4, and you can just read for yourself. It's all free.
You can also buy the book on Amazon, and a friend donated to Camp Constitution, I think, 2 cases, and I have them up on my Swamp Yankee books, which is sort of an arm of Camp Constitution. Yeah, it was your original edition. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being on.
You have the first edition?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's actually valuable. There's a bookstore in Oceanside, California, was selling those for $120.
Well, have him come in touch with me. I'll give him a good deal.
All right. God bless you, Hal.
All right. God bless you. You've been listening Bye now. You've been listening to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff, on WBCQ The Planet. Good night, and God bless.